A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just gonna start at the beginning, with the house. Someone had put up a chain link fence, but it looked like I wasn't the first person to hop it. I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back. No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints. The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it. As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house. I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me. Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
人入れちゃうんだったら
For the first time in years,
防犯意識低めな感じするけど
I felt like I was home.
大型犬飼ってたのかな。
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
なるほど。
The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
あら、
It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
去った夜のままなんで6年間も離れてたのに。
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
うん、なるほど。おばあちゃんは頑固だったのね。それとも変わってたのかな。
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many
絵
teeth.
がありすぎる。
Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
へえ。家がありすぎるってね、どういうこと。家がありすぎるってあれかな。部屋の数が異様に多いとか、そういうことなんだろうか。
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
うん、なるほど。スベンがこの家を作ったのね。
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
この鍵じゃない。わかった。オルコールさん急に止まるじゃん。びっくりするからやめてほしい。正面玄関の鍵開けられるかな。内側からなら開いたりしないか。
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
ああ、ミルトン、お兄ちゃんが行方不明だったんだね。
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
気持ち悪い。書庫にフィンチ家のみんなが、この家のみんなが埋められてるって気持ち悪い。いや、わかんない。いいや。
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms.
寝室をすべて封印した。
Then
うん。
Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
エリア覗き穴を開けた。ああ、みんな閉じ込めちゃったのね。誰が消えたって言ったっけ。誰が消えたって言ったっけ。名前が全然覚えられない。まあいいや。これ見てもしょうがないでしょ。多分。
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room.
重い。ウォルター王子さん。ウォルター。一番右の真ん中のやつかな。
I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
ウォルターの部屋は
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
ルイスは秘密の通路が。ルイスは、主人公の兄弟かな。この鍵かしら。お、開いた。いいね。
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets.
秘密を守るのがうまかった。
Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
何を恐れてたんでしょうね。おのおのの部屋を封印。
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me. Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
ミルトンは 個上かな。主人公より1個上の人らしい。
But I had no idea what was behind that door.
向こうには何が持ってるのか見当もつかなかった。ミルトンの部屋、女の子かな。
Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
どんな結末に向かうのかもわかんないねって。で、特になんもない。
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
モリミルトンじゃなくてモリ誰なんだ全然わかんない。こんがらがるね。モリの部屋ね。なるほど。袋好きだったのかな。全部袋これ。黒、猫、アヒル、ウサギかな。仮面っぽい。
Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
ああ、見てただけだったからね。なるほどね。日記かな。
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
食べ物を探しに行った。ネズミの餌食べる気にはならんな。やだな。気持ち悪いな。これ今操作してるのはモリーなのかな。ここは
My Halloween candy was all gone.
ああ、ハロウィンに集めたキャンディーもなくなっもう切らしちゃってたんだ。
Mom, can I come out now?
開かないよ。そういえば、ああ、なんか夜には良くないものが出たりしたのかな。
I kept eating and eating.
歯磨き粉食べちゃうの。お腹空いちゃったんだ。歯磨き粉食べちゃうぐらいにお腹空いちゃったんだ。食べた。それは食べなくていいや。とりあえずネズミの餌食べに行こうか。
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
人参？ちっちゃいね、随分。
Then I heard chirping outside my window.
窓の外で鳥の声がした。そんなことよりもこっち食べよう。
I ate a lot of things that night.
飾りだよね、これ多分。本物じゃないけど食べれちゃったんだろうね。金魚も食べられる？もしかして。金魚のクリストファー。
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held
食べようと思っ
back.
たけど我慢した。なるほど。
It was a barn swallow going back to her nest.
ツバメさん。
I reached out for her.
ちゃんとした食べ物だね。逃げちゃった。
And suddenly,
猫になったの？
I was a cat.
どういうことなの？猫になった。はい。どうすればいいのこれ。
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
どうしても逃げられちゃうね。そっか、首に鈴がついてるから首輪の鈴で逃げちゃうのかな。どこ行きゃいいんだろうこれ。こっち？どっち？にゃお。どうなってんのこれ。わかりにくい。上か？下？どこなのこれ。どこに行け 猫ならそこ行けない？どこ行けばいいのこれ。工具箱。こっちじゃないの？どこ行けばいいんだこれ。どこ行けばいいんですか？わかんない。どこ行けばいいのこれ。降りて、あれ？こっちじゃない。進むとこある他に。ないよね。どうすればいいんだろう。
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
ママもパパも私に目もくれない。LR です。LR じゃないや、L でしゃがむのかな。猫だからバレない。今なら動けるね、いろいろと。目もくれない。操作性が良くないかも。あんまり飛べないんですか？飛べないんですか？逃げるんで。わっかりにく。なにこのゲーム、わっかりにく。どこ行けばいいんだろう。そっち行けそうじゃない？行けるよね、そうだよね。どこ？こっちじゃないの？あれには離さないといけないね。
I jumped and I almost got her.
もう少しで捕まえられそう。なるほど。
I could tell she was getting really tired. Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
お母さん鳥を食べたくしょうがなかった。まあ、言ってることはわからんでもないけど。
I gobbled her up.
あ、
And suddenly, I was an owl.
あら？
First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
まだお腹減ってる。急降下できる。
Rabbits.
ラビット。お、なるほど。捕まえなきゃいけないのかな。捕まえた。
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit.
飲み込めるもんかな。
Then I flew off to find something bigger.
ウサギ一匹なんか飲み込めるもんかしら。
A mama rabbit.
お母さんウサギどこに？あ、いた。さっきと一緒じゃない？
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating.
いや、それ飲み込むな。
Suddenly, I was a shark.
シャーク。なるほど。これ。ショック。ここでサメで狩りをするですか？本当に？
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. hungrier than ever.
なんかいたね、今ね。
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
鹿がいい。鹿。
Her flipper, and it tasted really good. I grabbed on tight. When I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
タコになってた。タコ。
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere. I was big, but I moved real quiet. I wanted to stop, but also I didn't. Passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
R2 押さなくても動いてるね。自分の部屋か。この間取り見たことあるな。自分の部屋だよね。
I got closer and closer.
あ、自分も食べちゃうのか。そっかそっか。なるほどね。光のところに行けばいいのかな。
All my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
私は本当に美味しいって食べられちゃったんだ。机の下に潜んで、机じゃないや、ベッドの下に潜んでた。 化け物に食べられちゃったんだ。
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
なるほどね。ここにいたわけだ。
I can't describe it, but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
それでクラゲなのか。クラゲ、モリーはこうやって死んじゃったんだね。なるほど。これどうやっていけばいいんですか。
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past.
重い重い重い。
Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's room.
イーリーの部屋。鳥かご。
Edie knit me a new pair of gloves every year, just in time to replace the old ones.
写真とろうそくだから寿命、わかんない。全然よくわからん。奇妙がすぎる。
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
スベンはドラゴンに殺された。
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
ミディは頑固者だった。
I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
モグラ男。モグラ男なんていうのがいるのか。
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
90代。長生きやね。
Her room was like a
90代で
museum.
元気だったんでしょ。これ見ると多分彼女の物語が見れるんだろうね。ちょっと探索してからにしようか。このドアは開いてる。開いてるけど。
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
ピンク色のバスルーム。
It was a pretty big trace.
ああ。いや待てよ、これ。これは別のものな気がする。ああ、失敗したかな。先に向こうを見てくれば。
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
後戻りできないなこれ。モグラ男の回かな。
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
スフェンって誰なんだ。はい。8割方誰だかわかんない。さっきの部屋もうちょっと見てくればよかったな。本はあれだもんね。多分本の中にシーンとかが書いてあって、あ、戻れる。戻れそうだな。本の中にシーンとかいろいろ書いてあって進んじゃうから、多分この感じだとうん、こっち見てからにしよう。
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johann. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
はあ。エリーとスベンが夫婦で、待てよ。オーディンが最初の呪いを受けたもので、エリーとよその家から来たスベンが、モリー、さっきの猫の子かをなんだろうね。はい、なるほど。
Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery.
オーディンが死んだ。
His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
はい。
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
なるほどね。オーディの話。ここ。イーディの話はどこにある？
Lewis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him. Great-grandma had always been the family's biggest fan.
イーディの話がどこにあるんだかわからん。こっち？この辺本いっぱいあるけど、滋賀とか引き出しとか、これでもない。あ、モグラとか先に見ちゃうか。しょうがない。ここ行けないのかな。あれ、一つの部屋が区切られてるの？3。これなんて読むんだろう。わかんないや。人名読むの苦手なんじゃ。
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin,
サムに
and
双
that
子の
he
兄弟
never
がい
talked
た。
about him.
その双子の兄弟は隠されてたのね。
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
なるほど。また
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
頑固者だったね。片足怪我してる。
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did.
真っ白いの嫌いだったんだね。ブランコ降りれないのかな。あ、でもちょっとずつ勢いつき始めてね。 くわかんない。説明がないんだと思うよね。スティック倒しっぱなしでよ、下げがな。違う。ブランコ止める必要がある。違う。ブランコから降りたいんだけど。失礼。ブランコから降りたいんですけど、ダメですかね。勢いつけていくタイプかな。それっぽいな。音楽とスティック操作して。理解するまで大変そうに見えるな。どうすればいいのこれ。有識者おらんのか。有識者教えてくれ。遊び方がわかんない。進まない。進まない。 一生ブランコこいでるだけでもできた。どうすればいいのこれ。文字が消えた。さっきまであったのに。文字集めていくゲームじゃないのかこれ。全然わかんない。どうすればいいの。これ以外できることないもんな。ただただ何すればいいのかわかんないだけのゲームなんだけど。ちょっとくぐっておよ。ああ。 右スティックも動かさなきゃいけないのね。なるほど。左右両方使うらしい。こうか。なるほどね。
At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid
な
again.
るほど。
And he wasn't. I think Calvin always
全然わかんな
wanted
い
to
と思う。
fly.
そういうことだったらね。
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready! Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
あ、めっちゃ進むじゃん。今までの時間何だったんだよ。
I told him going around was impossible.
右足動かないなと思ったら
Maybe
右
if
スティ
I
ックだった
hadn't
んだ
said
ね。
that.
なるほど。完全に理解。
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up,
ああ。
then maybe
なんか
he'd still be here.
危ない感じに
But
な
I
って
doubt
る
it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother.
一回転するな。
The day he made up his mind to fly, and he did.
飛んじゃった。はあ。めっちゃ短いじゃん。理解したらめっちゃ短かった。
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
ブランコで一周できたらいいなってやつだったのかな。
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
なるほど。カルミン側を立ち入り禁止にした。
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
ああ、軍に行って思い出すのやめたのね。腹ペコ青虫、違う。こっち。なるほど。随分凝った仕掛けだな。面白そう。
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
開けとく。開けとくと出られる。なるほど。
Edie's father Odin built the original house. Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
バーバラ。オーディン
Mom
の
must have
妻
locked
だっ
the
け。
third floor stairs on the night we left. Barbara was a child star for 2 years, until America grew out of it.
なるほど。じゃあバーバラのとこ行くか。さっきのモリーがこっちにもいたんだ。
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
はあ。なるほどね。
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
ユーマに連れ去られる感じだろうな。ちょっと調べるとこないなくね。あれ調べるとこなくない？あった。だよね。
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The surprise ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck baby...
あ、ごめんね、止めちゃって。スペン、イリの夫か。
Sitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
なるほどね。あ、馴染みのある。
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
ずいぶん馴染みのある。もう聞き覚えしかないんだよな。もうなんかギャグシーンのやつしか思い浮かばなくて笑えてきちゃう、この BGM。 フロークリアってことはこの辺も争ってトロフィーもらえたりするんだろうか。あ、そうか、トロフィーは配信に乗らないのかな。ほらほら松葉杖で攻撃できる。
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
ああ、本物の化け物って感じだね。ほらほら。
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Quiet.
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your
ぶん
scream.
殴っちゃったん
Well,
だ。
I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there?
ウォルターになんかあったの？あ、襲われちゃった。
Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
まだなっとる、まだなっとる。まだなっとる。まだなっとる。もう一回テーブルをクリアしておく。まだなっとる、まだ。ああ。マスターゼを武器にし、触れるってことは出てくるってことだよな。要は。とりあえず、足も伸びとこうかな。2階にウォルタいる？ウォルタの部屋知らないんだけど。おー。ホラー演出。とても素敵なホラー演出。あ、おじさんの部屋か。ウォルタ。ウォルタいないね。
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hookman, and was speechless. He was quite smashing.
やっちゃえ。あ、そっちなんだ。逃げる。
He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
追われる役だったわけだ。どっちに逃げようか。どっちに行っても
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned.
殴れる。ああ。
He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over
まだ終わらない。
yet.
はあ、なるほど。ってことは目を離すと動き出すね。きっとね。目を離さないように。ただ玄関の方もちょっと気にしながら。いないね。やっぱりそうか。
Had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
Oh.
At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
家の中後ろ
Oh dear.
The monster had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life.
最高の悲鳴が聞ける代わりに殺されちゃうわけだ。
I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
ずいぶん悪趣味な話だ。耳をかくな。残ってた耳をかくんじゃないよ。
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered. As absurd as that comic was, maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
バーバラは怪物に襲われて死んだと。連れ去られたわけじゃなかったね。どこから入ったんだっけ？ここか。
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
ってことは地下室の鍵を取りに行ける。あれ、最初から巻き続けてたら取れたりするのかな。地下室ってことは次はモグラ男かな。巻いて巻いて巻いて巻いて巻いて巻いて巻いて巻き続けていくと取れる。なるほど。さっきのよし。同じ道をたどるっていうのもちょっと怖い話ではあるけど。
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
注射嫌いだったんだね。スベンの工房だから、あ、やっぱモグラ男の話か。
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
暗すぎでしょ。
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone.
ウォルター
She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories,
ああ、モグラ男は
I think it's that
ウォルター
none
な
of
の
us has
か
gotten very far.
モグラ男の正体はウォルターだったのかな。
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week.
シン
But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane.
出てきますって看護
Having a schedule,
で、
living for today.
あ、ウォルターの世話をしてて
I always expected to be dead tomorrow.
いいな。桃缶食べたいな。
But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything.
毎日
Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal.
化け物がいる
Almost
って
friendly.
信じ込んでたのか。まあいたんだろうけど。バーバラが、バーバラだっけ。
And then one day, everything just
名前忘れた。バーバラ。そうか、バーバラが
stopped.
死んでしまったわけだから。
Whatever that thing
な
was,
んだろうね。
it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting.
あ、いい
And maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
桃缶食べたい。桃缶美味しいよね。
It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years.
はい。
I'm done waiting.
打って出ると。
I have to leave while I still can.
覚えてる気がする。フィンチの割と大体覚えてる気がする。一回見たんだよな。
I know it's out there somewhere.
化け物がいるのは分かってる。
Whatever killed Barbara
バーバラを殺した何か。ああ、うん、あいつら
and Molly.
見たんだもんね。 モリーは、あ、そっか。モリーも化け物に殺
And
された。
Calvin.
カルビンは勝手に飛んでったんじゃなかったかな。カルビンは勝手に飛んでったんだよな。カルビンは知らないわ。
Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me.
なるほど。地面を掘るからモグラ男。
Whatever's out there,
あ
I want you to know
あ、
I'm ready for it.
まずいな。
I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
だよね。線路の上歩いてたらそうなるよ。そりゃそうだ。そりゃそうですよ。
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
私は守ろうとした。あ、素敵な写真？絵なのかな？写真なのかな？行ってみようか。
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding.
まあでも、ウォルターも
I don't want to make the same mistakes she made.
考えようによっては怪物に殺されたことになるわけか。
Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
ああ、なるほど。呪いを信じすぎて呪いに
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me.
死んでしまうの
But
か
I
な。
thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of.
こっちじゃないね、多分。いやでも
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
はあ、なるほど。信じすぎてやっぱり現実にしちゃったのか。こっち行けないのか。
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
ありえるように思える。そう思っちゃった時点できっと 呪いにとらわれてるのかな。
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. Three of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault. Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Edie, Sven.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant. I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
被写体になると魂を吸われるとは言いますけど、そういうこと。私はまだ関係なさそうだね。先の頃にじゃうか。 トーリー見てから行こうかな。イーディの見てないよね。
Instead of hiding from death,
どこにあんの？
Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it. イーディのお話どこにあったんだろう。サムのお話かな。
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lot. Perfect.
あ、撮るの早かったな、これ。
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Smile, Dawn. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
ピントの合う位置で撮ればいいんだよね、多分。これか。
Aw.
違ったのか。こっちじゃない。
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. Hey!
That's a keeper. Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph?
なるほど。あの被写体を探せ。
Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip.
あの被写体を探せってどこにある？
Your grandpa's Fen taught us how to fish,
これ？
how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere.
サムじゃない。サムじゃない。
I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time.
短いと、じゃあ短いと見つけ取ればいい。
Give me a minute to check the map. You don't need to waste any more film on me, kiddo.
なんか取れって言われてる。別のものを取れって。
Let's see.
あれか。
Dad!
Good eyes, Dawn.
星かね。
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just breathe. Turn off your imagination. Focus on your target.
どこだ？どこ見てる？ぼやけるからわからない。どこにいるの？これを取ればいいのか。
Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need...
あ、撃っちゃったね。
Great shot, Dawn!
話聞いてからにすればよかったな。
I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay?
ああ。こっちを動かすのね。
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
おう。突き落とされちゃったんだ。サムはこうやって死んだ。
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
そっかそっか。随分あっけなく死んだな。他のと比べると。
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot. I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Time's over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was, he saw. It sure made him happy. I know how silly it sounds. But I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
聞かせたくない。溺れ死ぬのか。
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. Hey, there's so much I don't understand about Gregory. About everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
成功に吸い込まれちゃったのね。グレゴリーは短命だったと。こっちの方は何もないの。あ、登れる。
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
とりあえずこっち読もうか。
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that I remember.
Husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
絶望じゃなきゃ嫌だったって。
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger.
はい。中指を立ててる。やだよって。
The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
次はどこ？あ、下か。これだ。
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
吹き飛ばされちゃった。違う。吹き飛ばされるテントにぶつかって。
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later.
ルイスは長男なの？どっち？長女？長男かな、ルイスだから。いやでも。
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last.
普通の日々は長く続かなかった。
The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Manga. 絵から絵筆が出てきた。面白い。ドア、本物のドアなんだろうな。ミルトンは絵の中に入っちゃったんだ。
I was 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
ドアを恐れたのはそれが原因か。この中に入っちゃったのかな。
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
なるほどね。
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
覚えてる。ここは覚えてる。缶詰のあれは覚えてる。
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small. Imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for radiant rainbows. He followed the sound of his silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him. He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch. On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
イーディすごい長生きだよね、そう考えると。イーディだけめっちゃ長生きだよね。で、オーディの頃からいるんでしょ。で、まだフィンチの呪いで死んでないんでしょ。すごい長生きだよね。
But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
The thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
イディには介護が必要だと思ってたのね。
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
書かれてないな。まだ2つ見逃してるのかね、やっぱり。そんなことないと思うけどね。すべての終わりってトロフィー出てきた。ゲームクリアっぽいかな。でも2つ取り逃してるよね、やっぱり。描かれてないってことはないだろうから。結構短いゲームだったね。1時間半ぐらいで終わるんじゃないかな。操作がついてなければ。ありがとうヨハン。誰なの？ありがとうヨハンって誰なんだ？ヨハンって誰なの？フレンドがみんなオンラインになってく。エーペックスのアップで発信来たんから。私もアップでしないとね。新レジェ使いたいし、結構好みのアビリティしてたし。このキャラと全然関係ないけど。長いな。エンディングだからしょうがないんだろうけど、長いね。 ストーリーよりプレイ。見逃したやつが見れる。あ、最後ので2人一緒なのね。ED と。じゃあ取り逃しじゃなかったのかな。プレイじゃないんだ。プレイじゃないんだ。はい。じゃあ終わりかな。終わりっぽいです。お疲れ様でした。